any form of confirmation of Ahmad Halilu as the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency, NASDRA, for non-compliance with civil service procedures. And finally, Mr. President,
Chairman, you know, I once told you we shouldn't be taking this thing up to that number. It's too much. At once we can take 5 or so. But when you go beyond that, you are going up to 9, 10. It's too much at a time. Please.
Noted for compliance, Mr. President. It's because on arrival from Easter break, I have about 30 petitions on my table to be referred. I will comply accordingly. Finally, Mr. President, Ogbe Joseph and 2 others against Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State. Open petition on addressing the Ondo State looming threat to life, peace and national security, gross violation of my fundamental human rights, psychological trauma, inciting public disturbance, and receiving under false pretense. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, to the best of my knowledge, none of the above petition is seeking judicial remedy. I therefore move, Mr. President, to seek the indulgence of the Senate to lay the above petition before the Senate for official referral to the Committee for further legislative action.
You may lay the petitions. The petitions are referred to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions to report back within 4 weeks. Senator Dimka.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Hezekiah Ayuba Dimka from Plateau Central. Mr. President, I would like to stand on point of order, order 42. Mr. President, with your permission, can I read the order? The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm standing on a very sad mood to announce the death of our former colleague of the 7th Senate. That is late Senator Sati.
Distinguished, did you come under order 43 personal explanation? What's the point of order? You can do that under 43. The death of Sati Bogum, right? Okay, you can do that under 43, just to inform the Senate. Yeah, you just say whatever you want to say under 43.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is inform Mr. President and distinguished colleagues that on the 5th of April, we lost our colleague, former Senator Sati Davis Gogwim, who died in Jos, Plateau State. And it happened that he's from my constituency and from the same village. And I feel it's my duty to inform the Senate that that's what happened to us, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you very much, distinguished Senator Hezekiah Dimka. I think you have requested for a 1-minute silence. in honor of our late colleague. By the way, I served with the late Senator Sati Ogbe in the 6th Senate, and he was a team player, and even though he was of the PDP extraction and some of us were in opposition, we related with him very, very well. Let's observe 1 minute silence in his honor, please. May the soul of the late distinguished Senator Sati Ogbe rest in perfect peace. Amen. Distinguished Senator Adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I am Senator Adjournment, representing the very good people of Plateau North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to come by way of Order 43 to present a matter that has to do with the attack and killing of my constituents. And Mr. President, since the order has just been read by distinguished Senator Hezekiah Dimka, I would want to rely on that and to ask that you permit me to make this presentation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, go ahead.
Distinguished colleagues, it is with indeed a very heavy heart this morning that I am bringing to the attention of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria an ugly incident, one out of many, that took place in my constituency last week. Mr. President, the people we are representing, the Nigerian people, in my constituency of Plateau North, last week rose up to find out that a group of minors, women and men, were attacked, and 8 of them were gruesomely killed by assailants. And this incident, Mr. President, has thrown my constituency into a mourning mood, particularly the Kuru community of Jos South, where this attack and assassination of our citizens took place. The concern from my constituency is not just that incident, Mr. President, but there is a trend of repeated and incessant ambush and killing of law-abiding citizens who are going about struggling to make a living. And that issue of insecurity in my constituency which is also affecting other parts of the country, is a challenge that we will continue to call on government and the security agencies to do all that is possible to address the situation. Mr. President, I would be appealing that this Senate observe 1 minute silence in honor of these very peace-loving people and citizens of Nigeria that lost their lives through this gruesome attack. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Because you have come under Order 43, personal explanation, the presentation is not subject to any debate. And we observe 1 minute silence in honor of our late compatriots. 1 minute silence, please. May the souls of our departed compatriots rest in perfect peace. Amen. Distinguished Senator Samegu.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Sam Egwu. I represent the good people of Ebonyi North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I want to come under Order 42 and 52.
Yeah, go ahead.
The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. 2, if the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of all the senators, the matter shall stand over to the next legislative day. 3, not more than one such motion may be made at the same sitting. 52, dispensing with notice. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of motion or in respect of any other proceedings for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, this is a case of wanton killing of my people in Ebonyi State by alleged headsmen. If I'm allowed, I can present the details, Mr. President.
Because you have come under Orders 42 and 52, I have to put the question, and we need the endorsement at least 1/5 of senators present. Those in favor of the request of our colleague, Senator Sam Egwu, that we allow him to present his motion now, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may present your motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Urgent need for federal government intervention to end the serial killing of innocent and defenseless citizens in Ebonyi State by alleged headsmen. The Senate notes with sadness the general state of insecurity in Nigeria, which has now spread to most parts of the country, devastating communities and wantonly destroying lives and livelihoods unabated.
concerned that the killings, maiming, kidnapping and wanton destruction of lives and property by herdsmen have now become the daily experience of innocent and defenseless people of Ebonyi State, who are murdered in their numbers almost on a weekly basis. Aware that on 30th of March 2021, over 18 indigenes of Egedeged, Obegu, and Amazu communities in each local government area of Ebonyi State, including a priest, were gruesomely murdered in cold blood by rampaging herdsmen. Alarmed that on Monday, just 2 days ago, 12th day of April 2021, the alleged herdsmen and Agila people again invaded Otuebu, Igidobu, and Ndiagu Ibe Ogbe village in Umugudo Akpu communities in the Ohuku local government area of Ebonyi State, and grossly killed over 12 innocent indigenes, burned and destroyed over 56 houses, and kidnapped 5 persons. Concerned that if the federal government does not intervene urgently, these wicked and senseless killings, kidnapping, and destruction of property and may continue, thereby subjecting Ebonyians and other citizens of Ebonyi State to severe hardship and terrific fear. Accordingly resolves to 1. Condemn in the strongest terms the various attacks on the communities in Ebonyi State by alleged herdsmen leading to wanton destruction of lives and property. 2. Observe a minute silence in honor of the victims of the various attacks in the community of Ebonyi State. 3. Direct the Nigerian police and other relevant security agencies to carry out comprehensive investigations of these dastardly attacks and to promptly arrest and prosecute the perpetrators, as well as rescue kidnapped victims that are still held captive. 4. Urge the federal government and Ebonyi State to put appropriate measures in place to forestall further attacks. 5. Request the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to immediately intervene through the provision of relief materials to the families of the victims and displaced persons in the affected communities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Chukwuka Utazi.
Mr. President, I am Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. I rise to contribute to this very important motion brought by His Excellency Senator Sam Ominyi Egwu on the killings in Senatorial District. Mr. President, every day we come here, the most important parts of our time spent here has always been about a reportage of killings of our people in the hands of herdsmen. Mr. President, this is becoming very, very worrisome. That a country that goes about saying that is under the rule of law, that issues of this nature keep repeating themselves on a daily basis. Mr. President, I used to know as a young boy in those good old days that parts of Ebonyi, that used to be the old Enugu State before the creation, and our area in Enugu North Central District that's very contiguous and shares the same boundaries, that because of the lush green vegetation in our area, and several rivers and rivulets, it has become a natural invitation to herders to stay. And in those good old days, Mr. President, we never had issues of killings. Everything, we resolved issues of any disagreement in the palaces of our local chiefs. And if the cow went into the farm, they resolve it and pay, and pay. And then things moved on normal. I remember in those good old days, Mr. President, that we used to have during the Ramadan period, the feast and all that. We come to watch the Muslims celebrating the end of Ramadan, their dance and everything. And I remember in those good old days, Mr. President, that during that period, the herdsmen carry sticks. They go with sticks. You don't see them with anything more than that. I also remember in those good old days, Mr. President, that during the farming season, from the middle of March, the beginning of March, that we see the herdsmen, they leave and move uplands in parts of Enugu State and Ebonyi, where there's not a purely agrarian. And we do our farming work. Once we finish our farm work, around September ending to October, they return. That time, you will not have an issue. It's seasonal. You know it. For 1 week or 2 weeks, you see them moving away to allow farmers to do their farm work. And after the harvest and all those by September, October, they return until the first week of March again, or second week of March. They move again. We know it, but things have changed. Mr. President, I am begging that in order to solve this headers issue, if we are going to make out time to have an inter-agency meeting, agriculture, water resources, and other people to sit down and define how we can, these rules of engagement we used to have that made us to live quietly in peace and do our business without let or hindrance. Let us return to it. This issue of every day we are coming here to repeat these issues is burdensome, Mr. President. With that, Mr. President, I say that something urgent and serious has to be done. Enough should be enough. Thank you so much.
Senator Michael Inachi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Michael Nachi, representing the people of Ogbe South. Mr. President, I rise to support the motion heavily raised by my senior colleague, His Excellency Senator Dr. Sam Omi-Egwu. Your Excellency, the senior senator must have not said much of what has happened to our state within these last 3 weeks. We've metamorphosed from communal clashes that has claimed over 700 people between the Efiom and Ezza people, which fall under his senatorial zone. After that, just 3 weeks ago, the 18 people, of course, their bodies were all shown in social media. They were slaughtered. On Monday, the 12 were slaughtered. As I'm talking to you, Mr. President, I got a call this morning that nobody slept in Abakaliki in fear of the herdsmen attacking them last night because they got signal that they were around. All of them ran into their houses. Mr. President, not to say much, the motion as heavily moved by Senator Egwu is heart beating. I support this motion wholeheartedly that something must be done to safeguard the life of the people. just less than 3 weeks, over 32 people killed by herdsmen. Over 700 people killed by communal clashes between Benue Effiong and Eza, which is part of Benue and part of Ebonyi. Mr. President, all the prayers as raised by Senator Samegu, I stand to support it. I pray for support. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, we go to the prayers. Prayer 1, condemn in the strongest terms the various attacks on communities in Ebonyi State by alleged herdsmen leading to wanton destruction of lives and property. Those in favor of prayer 1, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, observe a minute silence in honor of the victims of the various attacks by alleged herdsmen against communities in Ebonyi State. Those in favor of prayer 2, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, direct the Nigerian police and other relevant security agencies to carry out comprehensive investigation of these dastardly attacks and to promptly arrest and prosecute the perpetrators, as well as rescue kidnapped victims that are still held captive. Those in favor of this prayer, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, urge the federal government and Ebonyi State governments to put appropriate measures in place to forestall further attacks. Those in favor of prayer 4, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5, request the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to immediately intervene through the provision of relief materials to the families of the victims and displaced persons in the affected communities. Those in favor of prayer 5, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. One minute silence, please. May the souls of our departed compatriots rest in perfect peace. Amen. Senator Abomoro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Abomoro, representing the good people of the Benue South Senatorial District. Mr. President, if you permit me, I will come under Order 42 and 52 to urgently present to the consciousness of Nigerians a devastating windstorm that ravaged 2 local governments in my constituency. Mr. President, sir.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The motion is urgent need to buffer the corollaries of windstorm disaster on Obu branch and Odoba communities of Ogbadibo local government area and Olaidu, Okpalota, Ajide, Ujigo communities of Okpoku local government area in the Benue South Senatorial District. That the Senate notes that heavy windstorms and tornadoes are among the country's most dangerous natural disasters. And a natural disaster is a sudden event that causes widespread destruction, major collateral damage, or loss of life, brought about by forces other than the acts of human beings. Sadly, note further that on April 8, 2021, over 10 communities in Ogbadibo and Okpoku local government areas of Benue South Senatorial District were badly hit by a natural disaster, a devastating windstorm which left scores of people injured, hundreds of them homeless, and led to a wanton destruction of properties, valuables, and several means of livelihood worth millions of naira. Deeply pained that the said windstorm brought down all the blocks of classrooms of the LGA Primary School Epeilo, the roofs of LGA Primary School Obu 1, 3 church buildings, and all blocks of classrooms of LGA Primary School Odoba Haje, all in Ogbadibo local government area. residential buildings at Ojigo, residential buildings at Olaidu, some church buildings, 4 clinics, and a police station, masts and electric poles, and many buildings in Ajide and Okpalota in Okpoku local government area. Recall that on May 12, 2020, I drew the attention of the Senate in a motion in this hollow chamber over a devastating windstorm disaster that swept through I-Farm community of Ogbadibo local government area, wherein 150 buildings and other valuables were blown off with the storm, including the roofs of 1,000 capacity St. Michael's the Archangel's Catholic Church, the Aho Market, and the LGA Primary School of I-Farm. Worried that almost 1 year after the I-Farm disaster, the ordeal has repeated itself in a worse and more devastating manner and needs to be addressed to provide succor to the affected communities and persons. Accordingly, the Senate to urge the National Emergency Management Agency to, as a matter of urgency, mobilize resources to supply relief and rehabilitation materials to the communities to mitigate the sufferings of those affected by the windstorm. 2, urge relevant government agencies to quickly go in and support the rebuilding of all the affected public buildings. And 3, further urge relevant government agencies to take their presence to the Benue South Senatorial District to sensitize the people on measures to be taken to protect themselves and their properties from damages occasioned by this perennial calamity that annually befalls them. I so submit, Mr. President.
Anyone? Somebody should second the motion, please. Senator Makirinach.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Michael Nachi from Ogbe South. I rise to support the motion heavily moved by Senator Abamoro. Climate change is a serious issue in every country in the world, and the mitigation is more expensive than the predetermined process of controlling it. This motion, as moved by Senator Abamoro, has caused a lot of havoc in his senatorial zone. That as of today, people are under the sun, under the next rain, which we may not predict. Mr. President, I rise to fully support this motion and Senator Abamoro's prayers that something urgent and massively should be done to protect the life of these people and cause some remedial issues sent to them immediately through NEMA and other agencies. I so support, Mr. President. Thank you.
Let's go to the prayers, please. Urge the National Emergency Management Agency to, as a matter of urgency, mobilize resources to supply relief and rehabilitation materials to the communities to mitigate the sufferings of those affected by the windstorm. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, urge relevant government agencies to quickly go in and support the rebuilding of all the affected public buildings. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 3, further urge relevant government agencies to take their presence to Benue South Senatorial District to sensitize the people on measures to be taken to protect themselves and their properties from damages occasioned by this perennial calamity that annually befalls them. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you.
Point of order. Point of order.
Point of order. Senator Yesu.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I come under Order 42, and with your permission, I read.
You may proceed.
The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. if the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. Not more than one of such motions may be made in the same sitting.
Yeah, you can give us a synopsis of what you... Have you given that?
Sir?
Have you given the synopsis?
Yes, I'm going to give the synopsis now with the permission of the Senate.
Okay. Because you have come under 42, I have to put the question. So those in favor of his motion, he has come under order 42, requesting that the Senate gives him the endorsement to present his motion in the next legislative day. Those in favor of that request say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. The motion is on the urgent...
No, distinguished. The motion, you came under 42.
Yes, just the synopsis I want to give.
I asked you whether you did, you say you did. So you have already gotten the endorsement. Because I thought you did. I asked you whether you gave the synopsis, you say you did.
All right,
But
well guided, sir.
I have ruled you are lucky, even before you read the synopsis, because I asked whether you have given the synopsis and you said you did. So you present your motion the next legislative day.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Nora Ladi Dadut.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Nora Ladi Dadut, representing Plateau South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to raise a point of order under 42. And I ask the permission of the President to please allow me to read.
You may proceed, please.
The President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of all the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. And this is the matter, Mr. President. In my constituency, in the village named Namu, it has the largest yam market in the state. And this yam market was raised down by fire. That is, the yam market was raised down by fire, and the farmers are stranded. And you know, this is the season where they are preparing for the planting. And of course, this inferno has devastated all that they had, that is the yam seedlings, and it has left the people stranded. So I want to please ask if my motion will be taken on another legislative day. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, because I have come under order 42, I will have to put the question for at least 1/5 of our distinguished colleagues to approve of it. Those in favor of the motion by our colleague that she is allowed to present her motion the next legislative day, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
My highly respected and distinguished colleagues, before I start on the business of the day today, I would like, with their permission and the permission of my colleagues, to announce and congratulate you wholeheartedly on your appointment as an honorary fellow of Nigerian Institute of Surveyors. The investiture for that honor has been scheduled for today at 1 o'clock. So I wish to announce to my colleague this honor that has been bestowed upon you and by extension upon all of us. And we wish you good health and continuous service to the fatherland in your capacity as a leader of the Senate and as a new feather that has been put on your cap. The investiture being today at 1 o'clock, we wish to announce that those senators who are interested in witnessing the event, we have arranged a bus to convey the senators at 12:30 in the front view of the Senate wing of the National Assembly. So, Mr. President, congratulations. The first order of the day, or the first business of the day, is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of the distinguished Senator Buhari Abdul Fatai on the Coins Act Cap C-16 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 Amendment Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Leader, we're waiting for you. Oh, Clerk of the Senate, sorry.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Coins Act Cap 6C16 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2021 SB 627 first reading.
Coins Act Cap C-16 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2021 SB 627 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Suleiman Abdul Kwari on the Public Interest Disclosure and Complaints Enactment Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Public Interest Disclosure and Complaints Enactment Bill 2021 SB 644 first reading.
Public Interest Disclosure and Complaints Enactment Bill 2021 SB 644 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Yakubu Useni on the Information Communication Technology University Establishment Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Information Communication Technology University Establishment Bill 2021 SB 659 first reading.
Information Communication Technology University Establishment Bill 2021 SB 659 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Tolulope Akiremi Odebi on the National Burns and Rehabilitation Center Establishment Bill 2021. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Burns and Rehabilitation Center Establishment Bill 2021, SB 676, first reading.
National Burns and Rehabilitation Center Establishment Bill 2021, SB 676, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf on the National Youth Commission Establishment Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Youth Commission Establishment Bill 2021, SB 686, first reading.
National Youth Commission Establishment Bill 2021, SB 686, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee of Science and Technology on the screening of Mr. Halilu Ahmad Shaba for appointment as Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency. Distinguished senators will recall that the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 3rd March 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Oche Lilian Ekunufe, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Uche Lilian Ekunufe. Point of order, Senator Samegu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Sam Egu, representing Ebonyi North. Mr. President, just this morning, I'm a member of the Committee on Public Petitions. And just this morning, after presentation of petitions to this Hello Chamber, you refer them to the committee and ask us to do within 2.
Please distinguish, which order is that? Because it's a point of order. So I'm waiting for you to start the order. Which order? 43 is personal explanation. Okay.
The issue, Mr. President, is that before now, or this morning, you referred some petitions to us for consideration. And 2 of those petitions against this confirmation of this candidate is among those petitions. So without being prejudiced, I think it's just proper that we step it down and allow the committee to do their job before this issue is brought up again. Because
Okay, thank you very much, distinguished Senator Samegu. But the committee has finished its work, and the petition, whatever it is, should come after the confirmation. At this point, we can't stop the process because a petition, in fact, the petition should have been much earlier. So we can't stop a process that we have completed. But the petition can still go to, the petition is before the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions. Even if the person is appointed and the petitioners are able to prove themselves right, that person should be sacked. But at the moment, because of a petition, we cannot stop our process to continue. Noted. Continue, please.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Uche Lilian Ekunifiyom. Mr. President, I represent Anambra Central. I'm from Anambra State. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do receive and consider the reports of the Committee on Science and Technology on the confirmation of the nomination of Mr. Halilu Shaba for appointment as Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency. Mr. President, I so move.
Yes, Senator Ezinwa Onyewuchi.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Ezinwa Onyewuchi, and I represent Imo East Senatorial District of Imo State. I rise to second the motion as moved. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of our Committee on Science and Technology, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may lay the report, please. Chairman, you present the report. I hope you will give us an abridged presentation. Okay, thank you.
Consider the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, for the confirmation of the appointment of Dr. Halilu Shaba as the Director General, National Space Research and Development Agency. You may also recall that the request was subsequently referred to our committee for further legislative action. Mr. President, the power of the Senate to screen and confirm is on page 2. Section 14, subsection 1 of the National Research, Section 14, subsection 1 of the National Space Research and Development Agency Act 2010 vested the power to confirm the appointment of the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency on the Senate. Thus, there shall be a DG for the agency appointed by the President on the recommendation of the Council, subject to the confirmation of the Senate. Requirement for appointment as Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency is on page 3. Section 14, subsection 2 of the National Space Research and Development Agency Act 2010 states the requirement for appointment as Director General, National Space Research and Development Agency as follows. The Director General shall be a person with a minimum of 15 years demonstrable research experience in science and technology and knowledgeable in space science. The nominee has shown evidence of more than 21 years of postdoctoral research experience in space science, 6 years above the minimum requirement. He was cleared by the Nigeria Police and the Department of Security Service as a person eligible for appointment as Director General, National Space Research and Development Agency. The nominee provided evidence of tax clearance and code of conduct acknowledgement slip. Screening of the nominee and findings. You can find that on page 5, Mr. President. The nominee appeared before the committee on Monday, 22nd March in the meeting room 204, Senate New Building, National Assembly. The nominee was duly informed that the screening exercise will be thorough to determine his capabilities to successfully hold the office of the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency. He was equally informed about the expectation of the Senate and the nation at large if eventually he is confirmed by the Senate. During the screening exercise, Mr. President, the nominee was thoroughly interrogated on general matters relating to space science and technology. His response to the issues raised were satisfactory and even transcend the expectations of the committee. He displayed superlative expertise in space science and technology, as well as demonstrated high level of preparedness and capabilities to head the space agency. The recommendation is on page 6, Mr. President. The committee is satisfied with the qualification, performance, and suitability of the nominee for the position of the Director General, National Space Research and Development Agency. From the foregoing, Mr. President, the committee is convinced that the nominee for the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency, Dr. Halilu Shaba, is eminently qualified to hold the office he is nominated for. Accordingly, the committee hereby recommends Dr. Halilu Shaba as to the Senate for confirmation. Mr. President, you can see our prayer on page 6, that the Senate will confirm the nomination of Dr. Halilu Ahmed Shaba as the Director General, National Space Research and Development Agency. Mr. President, you can see also page 7, the Senate Committee on Science and Technology expresses its appreciation to the President of the Senate, principal officers, and indeed all distinguished senators for the continuous support, confidence, and finding us worthy to serve on this assignment. Mr. President, this is a brief summary of our confirmation of this nominee by Mr. President.
Thank you. Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I want to thank the chairman of this committee, distinguished Senator Iom, for a very thorough job. I believe from what we have had and my own personal knowledge of the issue also, I want to say that, of course, this is a person who has had his career within that agency since inception. I know my distinguished deputy leader, who was the pioneer of that agency, will have something to say also. But suffice it to say that what I've seen very peculiar here and very gladdening too is the fact that somebody has edged a career in an agency and has gotten to that peak where by merit he is found very capable and able and has been so recommended and nominated by Mr. President for confirmation as a Director General and Chief Executive Officer of that agency. Mr. President, the significance here is we've seen situations where the tendency to bring people from outside to head agencies when there are qualified people under, has been sometimes very worrisome. I was in service and I knew this is something that has always been a major issue in many agencies. So this is a very clear example, and I think it will encourage those who are in similar bodies to continue to work very hard, knowing fully well that they can be considered on merit for this kind of position. With these few comments, I know what we come to consider. I urge my colleagues to give their nod to this nominee. Thank you.
Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Robert Ajay Borofis, Senator representing Ondo North Senatorial District. I am a member of this committee that produced this report. But I have to add that I was the pioneer Director General of this agency, where I served for 10 years. And during my tenure, Dr. Shaba was in the agency. I worked closely with him. In addition to that, I was the chairman of Senate Committee on Science and Technology for a period of 8 years. And also, he worked closely with me. We all agree that the agency has been struggling to regain its original image in terms of productivity, in terms of discipline, in terms of credibility. And I sincerely believe that Dr. Chaba
is capable of re-engineering the agency and bringing it back to the level of the past glory. I have worked with him, he's cool-headed, he's intelligent, and is a team player, and is completely detribalized. And I think it is in the interest of this agency and the investment of the nation in this agency for us to allow a man like him to captain this agency. So I appeal to my colleague to please support the recommendation of this committee. Thank you, Mr.
Leader.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for the Senate to resolve into the Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report of our Committee on Science and Technology, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, approval. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Mr. Halilu Ahmad Shaba for appointment as Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I would like to move a motion for the Senate to reserve to plenary in order for the chairman to report progress.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate and the Committee of the Whole consider the report of the Committee on Science and Technology on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as the Director General, National Space Research and Development Agency, NASDA, and approve the nomination of Mr. Halilu Ahmad Shaba as the Director General, National Space Research and Development Agency. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mr. Halilu Ahmad Shaba for appointment as Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mr. Halilu Ahmad Shaba is hereby confirmed as the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency, NASDA. Congratulations. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development on the National Food Reserve Agency Establishment Bill 2021. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Tuesday, 19th May 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu, the Tracking Kefi, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu, Tracking Kefi.
Very distinguished colleagues, I am Senator
Abdullahi Adamu, and I do represent Nasarawa West in the Senate for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is my pleasure to lay and present the bill on an act to establish the National Food Reserve Agency and for other matters connected therewith, 2020 SB 189.
I need someone to second it. Senator Bima Mohamed Enagi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Bima Mohamed Enagi. I represent the people of Niger South from Niger State. I rise to second the motion that the Senate receives and consider the report of the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development in respect of the National Food Reserve Agency. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of our Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development, say aye. Those against, any, the ayes have it. Tama, you may lead the report. Chairman, you may present the report.
Your Excellency, the Senate President, my very, very distinguished colleagues, it is my pleasure to present this bill for an act to establish the National Food Reserve Agency and for matters connected therewith, 2020 SB 189. The introduction. The bill for an act to establish the National Food Reserve Agency and for matters connected therewith, 2021 SB 189, was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 20th November 2019. The bill seeks to establish the National Food Reserve Agency for the purposes of storing food grains and other food commodities for strategic purposes. The Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, at its sitting on Tuesday, the 19th of May, 2020, read it for the second time and referred same to the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development for further legislative action. The agency, when established, will implement the overall National Food Reserve policy to ensure a reliable supply of designated commodities in the country. The recent mandate of the President during the COVID-19 pandemic to distribute 70,000 metric tons of grains from the Strategic Grains Reserve shows clearly how important it is for a country to have a food reserve agency. With the existence of the agency, emergency food crisis will be taken care of, especially during the period of pandemic, as we are presently witnessing in the country. There will also be a reduction in post-harvest losses as silos, warehouses, equipment and ancillary facilities, and other suitable storage facilities will be installed and maintained. The membership of the committee is there. The methodology is also there, set out for want of time. Observations. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, with this agency in place, Nigeria will be taking the right step in the right direction as replicated in other countries, notably in Africa. Zambia has a food reserve act to manage national strategic food reserves and ensure national food security and income through quality marketing and storage services. The Zambian model has a strict mandate of buying and holding only national strategic commodity reserves to meet acute local shortages in supply. Another example is Tanzania's National Food Reserve Agency, with a mandate of ensuring food security. Some other countries have food or grain reserves to address emergency food crisis situations. The time is apt to put machinery in place for the development of the agricultural sector. The National Food Reserve Agency bill is one of the tools to make this possible, especially in a period of flood, famine, and other emergency situations. The bill recognizes the need to fill the apparent gap in agricultural development and coordination programs and projects.
Senator Dixon Siraki, you are just becoming an attraction center. All our ladies from both sides. Okay. Thank you, Senator Nora.
The bill recognizes the need to fill the apparent gap in agricultural development and coordination of programs and projects in the country with the collaboration of national and international agencies. A well-managed strategic grain reserve will stabilize stable food prices for the benefit of the consumers and farmers alike. Therefore, establishing an agency for this purpose is very essential to enhance food and nutrition security. Objectives. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, agriculture Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, agriculture plays a pivotal role in the development and growth of every nation. Any country seeking to diversify its economy, alleviate poverty, create jobs, and ensure food security should prioritize agriculture. Recognizing the important role agriculture plays, Nigeria has made efforts to place the sector at the fore by introducing different intervention programs and policies backed by enabling laws made by this other chamber. A further step to be taken to ensure food security in our country at all times is formulate enabling laws that will address food insecurity. This bill seeks to establish the National Food Reserve Agency for the purposes of storing food grains and other food commodities for strategic purposes. By this bill, where the President declares a national food emergency, the agency is empowered to release food stock. It also makes provision to meet other food emergencies caused by drought or flood or any other national disaster as may be declared by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The bill also empowers the agency to facilitate and provide guidelines for the establishment and maintenance of buffer stock in order to ensure price stabilization and food security and correct problems relating to the supply of designated commodities. With food reserves, food can be available to the most vulnerable population in times of crisis, while buffer stocks attempt to offset price movements and act as universal subsidies benefiting both the poor and the non-poor consumers. Recommendations. The bill, which is made up of 34 clauses, is divided into 5 parts. Part 1 deals with the establishment clause. Part 2 deals with the functions and powers of the agency. Part 3 establishes zonal offices. Part 4 specifies the appointment of the Director General and other staff. It also has a schedule and explanatory memoranda. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the committee strongly recommends that the passage of this bill into law will provide a legal backing and regulatory framework for the establishment of National Food Reserve Agency. In conclusion, the committee would like to thank the Senate President, Deputy Senate President, the entire Senate leadership, and the distinguished colleagues for the opportunity given to us to serve in this capacity. Thank you.
Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for this chamber to resolve into the Committee of the Whole to consider the report on this bill.
Minority Leader. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Those in favor that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, we start from the first page. Most of the clauses have been retained, but I will still take. Sorry? So I will take one clause at a time. Those in favor that clause 1. Clause 1. Senator James Manager. Senator James Manager.
1, there shall be established. There shall is missing there. There shall be established a body to be known. Because everything about legislative drafting. There shall be established. The shall is not there. There is established a body to be known, which is not correct.
Yeah, that doesn't go in.
Point of order.
I'm Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru. I represent Osun Central Senatorial District. With respect, the point of order is constitutional and is based on the Section 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the second schedule to the Constitution. Mr. Chairman, I take the indulgence to refer to the section of the Constitution. Section 4 of the Constitution, Mr. Chairman, provides for the amplitude of the powers of this National Assembly. And it provided in Section 4, subsection 3, that the power of the National Assembly to make laws for the peace, order, and good government of the Federation with respect to any matter included in the exclusive legislative list shall, safe as otherwise provided in the Constitution, be to the exclusion of the House of Assembly of the States. In the subsection 2, he said the National Assembly shall have power to make law for the peace, order, and good government of the Federation or any part thereof with respect to any matter included in the exclusive legislative list set out in Part 1 of the second schedule to this Constitution. Additional to that is that in addition and without that subsection 4, in addition and without prejudice to the powers conferred by Section 2, subsection 2 of this section, the National Assembly shall have power to make law with respect to the following matters, that is to say, A, any matter in the concurrent legislative list set out in the first column of Part 2 of the second schedule to this Constitution to the extent prescribed in the second column opposite thereto, and B, any other matter with respect to which it is empowered to make laws in accordance with the provision of the Constitution. Based on these provisions, the extent of our power as a National Assembly is 1, to make law in respect to exclusive list set out in Part 1 of the second schedule to the Constitution, 2, concurrent legislative list set out in the first column of Part 2 of the second schedule to the Constitution, or 3, any other matter with respect to which it is empowered to make laws in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. Mr. Chairman, I've looked at this Part 1 of second schedule of the Constitution and also Part 2 of the second schedule in respect to the column relating to the national legislature and all other provisions of the Constitution. There is no power that enables this National Assembly to make law in respect to full reserve agency that is proposed by this legislation. That's my position.
Are you suggesting that we have no power to do this legislation? Senator Ibrahim Gobir.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, what I'm not suggesting, I'm submitting based on the provision and the constitutional provision that we don't have power to make law in respect to the agency that is proposed to make.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Ibrahim Gobir. Yes, with due respect to my learned lawyer, but we have to understand that agriculture is under concurrent list, not under exclusive list. And therefore, we can actually enact this law. Because this is very fundamental and important. Because if we don't do it, then we will stand the risk of having problems. Because with the foreseen, let's say, famine coming in this country, and if we don't have this act, then we are going to have problem, actually, because we cannot help our people on emergency.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. With due respect to my very dear colleague, I think his intervention is misplaced completely. It is misplaced because the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is very clear on the issue of agriculture. Agriculture is not in the exclusive legislative list. It is in the concurrent legislative list. The National Assembly has inherent jurisdiction to make laws for the good governance of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Where there is concurrence in functions, if any administration or legislator lower then the National Assembly makes law that is in conflict with this, our law supersedes. That is the position of the constitution of this country.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. I remain Muhammad Adamu Alero, representing Kebbi Central. Mr. Chairman, I'm rather amazed that the National Assembly has no power to make law on Food Reserve Agency. We all know that agriculture is on the concurrent list as far as the 1999 Constitution is concerned, which means the state and the federal government have jurisdiction as initiated by Mr. Chairman. Not only that, virtually all nations in the world do have food reserve agencies. This is done in order to mitigate, scarcity of food arising either from flood, natural disaster, or even crisis of insurgency. Mr. President, more than ever before, Nigeria needs food reserve agency now. The security situation in this country has made it impossible for farmers to even go to their farm and work. So if we don't have this kind of agency, how do we feed our people? So I want to state very categorically that the National Assembly has power to make law on National Food Reserve Agency. We should therefore proceed with the consideration of this report on close by close. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Please let me ask Senator Ajibola. So if the National Assembly cannot legislate on this, who is going to legislate? State Assembly?
The State Assembly that will legislate, because the residual power to make law in respect of what is not provided in the exclusive legislative list and concurrent list and any other enumerated provision of the Act, the Supreme Court in the plethora of cases has considered the position. And I will make reference to the National, Urban and Regional Planning Law, was declared null and void by the Supreme Court because there is no legislative item on it. And to the contention that agriculture is the exclusive legislative list, I want to say that if on the concurrent legislative list, even on the concurrent legislative list, there is a section for the state, there is a section for the federal government on concurrent list. So it is only the part that has to do with, I want to refer to paragraph H on the amplitude of the power of National Assembly in relation to agriculture. Yes.
So this aspect of food reserve, does it belong to states exclusively that we cannot legislate on it? Where is it written? What does the Constitution say about this? Which section of the Constitution?
Mr. Chairman, I'll first refer to section 4, subsection Section 4, subsection 7, paragraph A. The House of Assembly of a state shall have power to make laws for the peace, order, and good government of the state or any part thereof with respect to the following matters. That is to say, A, any matter not included in the exclusive legislative list set out in part 1 of the second schedule to the Constitution. So to the extent that the issue is not on the exclusive legislative list And I also further my argument that paragraph H in this concurrent legislative list did not also vest the same power expressly in the National Assembly with respect as desirable as the law may be, as an example may be made to foreign jurisdiction, will be acting or transgress the Constitution if you go ahead and consider the bill.
So since the National Assembly is co-joined with the state legislatures in the concurrent legislative list, can't we use that as a basis to legislate on food reserve for the federal government?
The concurrent legislative list, the understanding clearly is that even I refer again back to the Constitution, that the power of National Assembly on concurrent legislative list is also circumscribed. The fact that an item is listed on the concurrent legislative list does not mean that both the federal and the state has the power to make law. That has always been the general understanding. I will refer to section 4, subsection 4, paragraph A. It says, in addition, and without prejudice to the powers conferred by subsection 2 of this section, the National Assembly shall have power to make laws with respect to the following matters. That is to say, any matter in the concurrent legislative list set out in the first column of part 2 of the second schedule to this Constitution to the extent prescribed in the second column opposite thereto. If Mr. Chairman and the Senator look at concurrent list, there are 2 columns. There's a section for the state, even on the same subject matter. There's a section for the federal government on the same subject matter. And on the issue of agriculture, I refer us to this concurrent legislative list, paragraph H, that talks about industrial, commercial, or agricultural development. He made express provision as to the extent and amplitude of the Federal National Assembly law power in that regard. And I read section paragraph 17. The National Assembly may make laws for the Federation or any part thereof with respect to A, the health, safety, and welfare of persons employed to work in factories, offices, or other premises, or in interstate transportation and commerce, including the training, supervision, and qualification of such persons. B, regulation of ownership and control of business enterprises throughout the Federation for the purpose of promoting, encouraging, or facilitating such ownership and control by citizens of Nigeria. C, establishment of research centers for agricultural studies, research centers, and the establishment of institutions and bodies for the promotion or financing of industrial, commercial, or agricultural projects. Promotion and financing. That is expressly what is provided in the exclusive legislative list. So I'm submitting, sir, we expect that the mere mention of agriculture on the exclusive legislative list. Okay, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, I represent Niger North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I'm not a lawyer, but let me say that from my experience as the staff of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, the subject we are discussing today is a subject that is hierarchical. And so we are talking about the highest level, which all over the world is being controlled by the central government. What this agency seeks to do is to even ask, what is even the mandate of this agency? And Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, if you look at page, I think it's page 5, so, page 5, which talks about the mandate of the agency. If you look at it, you will know that we understand the responsibilities of the state, and it says, for example, first, implement the overall national food reserve policy to ensure a reliable supply of designated commodities and meet local shortfalls in the supply of the designated agricultural commodities in the country. This is taken from the perspective of national food security. And if you look at national food security, you cannot say, oh, a state is the one to provide all the food. No. It is a system designed to ensure that at all times, a country is able to guarantee that food will be supplied and available to its members. If this is true, then where do you take the primary purpose of governance to mean the welfare and security of the citizens? Can you talk about security and welfare of the citizens without food? No. So will a country not have a strategy? Today we are having a serious security challenge. If you look at the Northeast is not able to meet the normal agricultural production cycle that we are used to. And if you look at it, because of that, it has now enhanced the availability of food. It has affected it. To that extent, if you look at the MBS report, you will see that the price of food is going up. The essence of this agency is to make sure that we have a food reserve agency that we guarantee at least a food reserve. If you remember when we started this pandemic, the federal government released 60,000 tons from the national reserve. So I want to say that clearly, the essence of this particular bill is to make sure that we have a national framework that we ensure that we don't allow our citizens to fall short when we have any crisis. So the essence of this bill is definitely in line with our mandate, and I want to urge that our colleagues, we should just go ahead and do the needful.
Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, James Ebiowo, Manager, Delta South. Mr. President, I patiently and quietly listened to the arguments of my learned friends, who seems to be very prepared to go against this bill, raising fundamental constitutional issues. There is no doubt about the fact that this agency is needed at the national level. No doubt about that. And you can only fault the argument of Senator Ajibola if you also raise the Constitution, provisions of the Constitution to counter him, not about sentiments. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, even in the Supreme Court, when lawyers counter one another, at the end of the day, the Supreme Court, people who have read law, people who have been sitting as judges, rising from High Court to the Court of Appeal to Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court, when the arguments become too tough, they will adjourn. They will adjourn to give a ruling. Mr. President, because of the way the preparedness of Senator Ajibola on this matter, raising legal issues, I would rather advise. I am a lawyer like him too, but I'm not that prepared on a day like this to counter him as much as I need this agency to be in existence. Mr. President, today is Wednesday. The next sitting day will be Tuesday. I don't think it will be too late. The establishment of this agency is so urgent that between now and Tuesday, if it is not passed, then there will be full crisis in this country. Mr. President, my humble appeal, I want to know what this, my learned friend is talking about. Because he's raising serious constitutional issues. But sentiments cannot counter effectively what the points that he's raising. So my humble advice, Mr. President, on this occasion, is for us to, I wanted the senator, the chairman of the committee, who is also a lawyer, to also use the same constitutional points to counter his argument. But it's like, it sounds like, it's ready now? Oh, you are ready now. But even then, Even there, Mr. President, yes, even there, Mr. President, I will advise that these arguments and counter-arguments, we can step it down briefly. Then by the chairman of the committee on judiciary is also there. So I wouldn't know. That is my humble advice, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the President. I have all the respect you can imagine for the emotions and sentiments expressed by our dear colleague. But specifically, I want the Senate to take a look at the concurrent legislative list, which is the core matter. And section 17, or sub 17 of that, 17 from C, I read, that's from the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The establishment of research centers for agricultural studies, that's what the National Assembly can do. The establishment of institutions and bodies for the promotion or financing of industrial, commercial, or agricultural projects. 18, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, a House of Assembly may make laws for that state with respect to industrial, commercial, or agricultural development of the state. Nothing in this, and nothing in the foregoing paragraphs of this item shall be construed as precluding a House of Assembly from making laws with respect to any of the matters referred to in the foregoing paragraphs. So the issue here is nobody is saying a state cannot make laws in regard to subject matter. But if they dare do, and the law they make it goes in conflict with the laws made by the National Assembly in regard to the same subject matter, the laws will make supersede. That's the position of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ogbe Omo Agege, Delta Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I want to align myself completely with the position taken by the chairman of the committee. But I will also add that in addition to situations where there's a consistency or conflict with the provisions of laws made by the Houses of Assembly and that of National Assembly, there's also the doctrine of covering the field. Now, what that means in effect is that if the National Assembly were to move first, as is being done here now by the committee, then the Houses of Assembly, even though they have the power provided here under the concurrent provisions of the Constitution, that field is already covered. And there's a preemption already, meaning that they can no longer make any law with respect to this subject matter once the National Assembly has done so. So in a nutshell, I align myself with the position of the chairman of the committee. This is constitutional. We have the powers to make this law. I shall submit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Sam Egu, Ebonyi North Senatorial District. Mr. Chairman, I'm a member of this committee, and a lot has gone in producing this bill for an act to establish this National Food Reserve Agency. It's not as if we don't have a structure that does exactly what we are trying to do, but it is still a department in the ministry, Federal Ministry of Agriculture. And the purpose of this bill is to escalate it to a level for it to be a separate agency with more powers to recover more grounds. But listening to the argument of our colleague, I want to align myself with what Judge Major said. And it brings to the fore our inability to synergize with agencies we have. The National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies is an institute that if this bill or something has been able to go through there, they have the competent manpower, the legal, to actually look at this. And because it will be very embarrassing, we pass a bill that is sent to the executive and they turn it down. We have suffered a lot of humiliation and embarrassment before. So I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, it will not cost us anything to step it down and do the needful so that once after we are all in support of this, but let us not again embarrass ourselves. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, Chairman Judiciary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Michael Okoyemi Bamidele. I represent the Central Senatorial District. Mr. Chairman, this is democracy at work. And let me also place on record that the distinguished member who presented the report upon which we are holding this committee of the whole is a well-respected member of this Senate, former governor, eminent elder statesman, who also has done so much to guide the process of legislation in this place. So, by no means, he means well. I also want to place on record, sir, that he is a most senior lawyer within and outside of this chamber. Both his good self, as well as our other colleagues who raised this constitutional point of order, are members of a committee of this Senate that is supposed to guide the Senate in the process of legislation, especially when we're in a matter like this, the Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters. As a matter of fact, Your Excellency, most of the lawyers who are here, members of the Judiciary Committee, who were supposed to have left for screening at 12 noon, stayed back to guide this process because of the issue on the floor. My appeal, sir, will be, let us step this matter down for just a legislative day. And then we'll call a meeting of the committee, as a matter of fact, a joint meeting of both the Committee on Agriculture that prepared this report, as well as the Committee on Judiciary, where both of them are members. Sir, I am saying this for the record. Sir, I request for your protection, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, let me remind distinguished members that this is not about influence. This is not about sentiment or emotions. One of the worst things that can happen to us is that a member will raise a constitutional point of order on this thing, will not be able to handle it in a way that such a member himself will be convinced and Nigeria will be convinced. We have been here for almost 2 years. And under your word, sir, no member has come out of this chamber to go to the courtroom to go and file anything. We don't need any situation where it will appear that we cannot handle our affair. Stepping this down for a legislative day will not kill anybody. And that's my humble submission. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished colleagues, I have listened to all the interventions, and honestly, my understanding is we can legislate. That's my understanding. Even those who are suggesting that we stand this thing down until we have a clearer picture. I'm not saying we don't have the power to legislate, because my understanding of concurrent legislative list is that we can legislate. So could the State House of Assembly, the state legislatures. And I don't see how the Constitution prevents us from legislating on food reserve in the country. Every country, the food reserve is the business of the government at the center. In every country. Can we really afford to just leave it to be everybody's business? I don't think we can afford to just leave the food reserve issue in Nigeria to state governments, after the state governments run to the federal government. So my view, sorry? That what? Okay, read it.
Part 2, subsection 4, subsection 5. With your permission, Mr. President, I will read. If any law enacted by the House of Assembly of a state is inconsistent with any law validly made by the National Assembly, the law made by the National Assembly shall prevail, and that other law shall, to the extent of inconsistency, be void. So it means, it talk about the concurrent legislative list. Yes, it talk about the concurrent legislative list, and the House of Assembly shall have power to make law for peace, order, and good government of the state, or in any part thereof, and in respect of the following matters, to say, it listed all the matters that State House of Assembly has power to. So, Mr. President, what I'm saying is that the Food Reserve Agency is a federal government affair. National Food Reserve Agency. States can have their own. They can make law and set up Food Reserve Agency. But it doesn't prevent the federal government from doing the same thing, or the national government. So it is very much in order. And if they make law that is inconsistent with the law of the National Assembly, then that law cannot stand. This is the Constitution. So we should go ahead and consider this bill, Mr. Chairman.
Well, distinguished colleagues, I'm convinced that we should rather legislate to protect the country by way of ensuring that there is food reserve at any time, than allow it just open like this for anybody to just maybe legislate, especially at the state level, which I'm sure will be looking up to the federal government for some kind of support, some kind of assistance. So my ruling will be, and this will be in keeping or in consonance with our Standing Order 25H, that I interpret the rules or the point of constitutional point of order our colleague raised, that we don't have such powers. I think the National Assembly has such powers. I think the emergency in our country requires that we do everything and anything possible to rescue, protect the lives and security of the people of this country. I'm not a lawyer, but I've listened to all the arguments, and I believe that we should go ahead do our legislation. If anyone outside feels that the legislation is wrong, that person can go to the courts so that the legislation is nullified. And that is going to be a practice of democracy. But I believe that Nigeria at the moment needs this kind of legislation. That is my ruling. So we go through the report. Those in favor that clause 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. Corrected. Okay, there was a correction. There shall, I think correction as corrected by Senator James Manager. Those in favor of clause 1 as amended, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of clause 2, say aye. The clause 2 stands part of the bill, say aye. Amendment, DSP.
Mr. President, Section 2, Subsection 3, I read, say, members other than ex officio shall be appointed by the President on the recommendation of the Minister. Mr. President, I rise to amend that Subsection 3 should read, members other than ex officio shall be appointed by the President, period. And we delete on the recommendation of the Minister for reasons I've advanced in the past.
You have always said so.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah.
I second. I second the correction made by the DSP. James Manager is my name. By His grace.
United. So those in favor that clause 2 as amended stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. DSP, please you take over. Start from close.
Clause 3. Those in favor of clause 3 be part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 4, retained. Those in favor of clause 4 be part of the bill, say aye. And those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 5. Those in favor of clause 5 be part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 6. Those in favor of clause 6 be part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 7. Those in favor of clause 7 be part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 8. Those in favor of clause 8 be part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 9. Those in favor of clause 9 being part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 10. Please.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I'm Kabiru Gaya, representing the people of Kano South from Kano State. Mr. President, we just amended clause 2, where it states that on the recommendation of the minister, we have later that I believe we should do the same on this one. Thank you.
Clause 10.2 will now read, the Director General who shall be a person knowledgeable in agriculture and having the requisite cognate experience shall be appointed by the President, period. And we have deleted on the recommendation of the minister. Clause 11. Those in favor of clause 11 be part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 12. Those in favor of clause 12 in part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 13. Those in favor of clause 13 in part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 14. Those in favor of clause 14 be part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 15. Those in favor of clause 15 being part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 16. Those in favor that clause 16 be part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 17 and 18. 17 and 18. Those in favor of clauses 17 and 18 being part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 19. Those in favor of clause 19 being part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 20 and 21, the both retained. Those in favor of clauses 20 and 21 being part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 22 and 23 and 23. Those in favor that clauses 22 and 23 be form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 24 and 25. Those in favor that clauses 24 and 25 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clauses 26 and 27, the both retained. Those in favor that clauses 26 and 27 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 28. Those in favor that clause 28 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clauses 28, 29, and 30. Those in favor that clauses 28, 29, and clause 30 form part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 31. Those in favor that clause 31 form part of this bill say aye. And those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clauses 32 and 33. Those in favor that clauses 32 and 33 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 34. Those in favor, that's short title. Short title, that's clause 34 on page 19. Those in favor that clause 34 form part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay, the ayes have it. The schedules on page 1, and page 19. Those in favor that is scheduled on page 1 and page 19 from part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Explanatory memorandum is on page 22. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 22 from part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. What? Yes, that's on page 20. That's what I just did. Then the long title is on page 1. Those in favor that the long title on page 1 for part of the bill say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Chairman, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for this distinguished chamber to revert to plenary for the chairman to report progress. I so move.
Mr. President and Chairman, I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the report of the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development of the National Food Reserve Agency Establishment Bill 2021 and approved as follows. The long title, as recommended. Clauses 1 to 2, as amended. Clauses 3 to 9, as recommended. Clause 10, as amended. Clauses 11 through 32, as recommended. Interpretation clause 33 as recommended. Short title clause 34 as recommended. The schedules 1 as recommended. Explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion that this bill be read the third time. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Those in favor of the bill, that this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the National Food Reserve Agency and for matters connected therewith 2021 SB 189, third reading.
A bill for an act to amend, sorry. Where is it? Where is it? A bill for an act to establish the National Food Reserve Agency and for matters connected therewith, 2021, third reading taken. The bill is read for a third time and passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, given the situation in the Senate at the current moment, but a lot of our committees have gone out, and given exigencies of duty, in view of several committees, agriculture, rural, legal matters, human rights, not here, petroleum, also not here. I rise to move a motion for this Senate to consider and suspend all other items on our legislative agenda to another legislative day. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion ably moved by the leader.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for this session of the distinguished chamber to be adjourned to Tuesday, 20th of April 2021 from 10 a.m. I so.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
The Senate. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is accordingly adjourned until Tuesday, the 20th day of April, 2021 at 10 a.m. prompt.